Welcome to another video of Introduction to GURPS. This will be about character creation, and this will be part 1. So when you are expecting or planning to play in a GURPS game, you will need, of course, a character. Since I play this game, the fundamental and most crucial part of the game is, of course, the character, and this is why the first book in the line is dedicated to the most important piece in the game, your character. In a sense, when you are designing your character in GURPS, it is very much like a social contract between you and the GM. And this will require more than just rolling some dice and make some choice inside the book. You see, this game is very diversified and have many options. So if you take them all, you will basically create an unplayable character, or a character that will have an upper hand on the other characters around the table. So the first step in creating your character in GURPS, step 1 is to talk to your GM, because the GM is often having an idea of what is coming in the game, or have a talk with all the players at the same time. This is crucial. This is where you can get inspired for a character concept. This is where you can have the premises for the game you will play. You will not create the same character for a typical fantasy game than for a sci-fi game. The skills will not be the same, the advantage will not be the same. In one example, you will have maybe access to magic, and the other one you will have access maybe to psionic power, or implant, cybernetic implant, or robots. You can play a robot if you want. So the first step is really to talk with the person who is organizing the game. So after talking with your game master, you will know about what are appropriate to have as a character concept, or the limits of the game, what you can buy, what you cannot buy, and what you can buy, how many levels you can buy in it. Are there advantages or disadvantages that you cannot take? Which skills are appropriate for your character or the game in general? Are there some skills that are required for everybody in your game? So it's very important to have this discussion before the game. You cannot just pop into a GURPS game like in a Pathfinder organized society with a character, pre-made character, and just go with it. No, generally game masters will have maybe pre-gens, but you cannot come with a 1,000 points character to an investigator game set in the 20s with a 50-point character. It's nonsense. It's you will ruin the fun for everybody. You will break the game. So yeah, you should have a character that is efficient at what it does, or not, depending on what you're hunting for. But your character should always be appropriate to the campaign, even if it's a one-shot. So the GM will also tell you or negotiate with you how many points you have for your character, because in GURPS you have to spend points to develop or buy your character. You have to buy everything in the game. This somewhat ensures a certain level of equality between players, although in solid reality you can very much when you know the game backward and forward, you can really pretty much make a game-breaking character with pretty much any character point budgets. So this is why the talk with the GM is so important. So depending on, now referring to all these talks, all these little tiny bits that you talk with your GM, you will be able to do your first step in creating this masterpiece, this hero, this adventurer. So talk with the maestro before designing your character in your corner, your misfit, inefficient, no parent, no family, dark, gothic, self-centered killer, and no. Talk with the GM, talk with the other players if you can, and you will have a clear idea of what to expect from the game and what you can bring to the game. Step 2, concept. Try to have a clear and defined idea for your character. When I mean clear idea, I will propose this exercise to you. Try to visualize your character, try to take notes, try to draw your character, try to find a picture, a photograph of maybe someone you can base your character off. And then when you have this clear image of your character, try to have a clearer image and try to have more details. And in most games like Savage Worlds and Pathfinder, you can just roll dice, place your stats, pick a class, choose your skill, and pick some class ability, and you're gone. You can just go with that. In GURPS, you will work off your own ideas. So it's very important to have a clear definition, a clear image in your head or on paper of what your character is all about. So try to take into account the followings. What type of character is he or is she? Is it a fighter, spy, rogue, scientist, athlete, explorer, occult investigator, magician? Try to have a general type for your character. Then think about his or her appearance. What does he look like? Does she wear a nice dress? Does she have a particular hairdo or style? Does she resemble maybe a Hollywood star, maybe, or maybe is she like a little bit like this actress and a little bit like that actress? Or try to have a look for your character, because in the game look can have an importance. If your character have a normal appearance, try to have this in mind. Then go into capabilities. What are your character? What your character can do? What is he good at? Is he an expert in something, or is he capable in many skills, but just an average level? Is he a jack of all trades or a specialist? Try to have in mind what kind of ability or skills or competence this character can have. Then go into a more social and cultural background. Where does your character come from? From what culture he comes from? I'm North American, but I come from Canada and from a French-speaking community or province. So my culture is not the same as someone who is living in Southern California or someone who's living in Seattle or in Africa or in China. So try to have a sense of culture and social background. Is your character comes from a higher status family, or is he poor and struggling in life? What is his wealth? Is he rich? Is he poor? Is he struggling? This is part of a social status. Then is your character have certain quirks or little tics or little mannerism? Is there something your character do all the time? Does he whistle? Does he scratch his head? Does he dance when he's happy? All these little details are important. So try to maybe scribble them down and or have it in your head. And also, don't go too far. Leave some place for, of course, discovering the characters when you play. Don't describe every facet of your character. Just have a general idea and maybe 5 or 7 details about your characters. So, step 3. And this one is kind of mechanic. What is your points total? This one, your GM and yourself and the other players will generally agree on or the GM will just tell you what he is aiming for his game. So this is the number of points you will have to spend to design your character. A realistic game will generally give you a budget of about 25 points to maybe 50, and at 50 points you're pretty competent as a human being goes. A realistic game with more experience and more heroic character will maybe give you 75 points to 100 to 125 points. And even though these numbers seems to be round, the GM can very much give you like 136 points if he needs to. A character that if you have 150 or 200 points for your character will be more in the veins of a TV show or a movie star like. And if you have 300 points, you start to be the really big action movie star. You're slowly walking towards the superhero territory. And if you have 500 points to spend, you clearly are designing a larger than life character, and so on and so forth. So this is the basis for your character, and you now have to take into account what you have did in step 1 and 2. Rethink about what you talk about with your game master, and into step 2 try to have your list of details and appearance and everything about your character. And now you can begin to design your own character. You can sit down and actually crunch the number. Of course, the best way to design a GURPS character was always to be in the presence of your game master, because even if you agree upon a style of game, points, number, and everything, there is times will come when you will have a specific question. Can I design this power this way, or how would you model this ability, or and the game master will be your resources for that. So if you are very learning the game, you should not create your character maybe alone. I suggest just sit down next to your game master and design the character together. So this will further reinforce the social contract that you are designing on your sheet, in a sense. So yeah, so you could very well just, if you're a pro, you could very well take your points total and just design your character off cloth and make your character approved by the GM and go. So you would not need the second video for this this introduction, character creation. But if you're beginning, of course, just seek the help of more experienced GURPS player. Of course, the GURPS, the budget that your game master give you may be loose or not. Some GM are very strict. You have 100 points tight and fit, and you have to deal with this. You can, of course, take disadvantage for in exchange for more points, but you will have generally strict guideline to do this, because a minus 500 points in disadvantage is ridiculous. It's unplayable and not very fun for the others, the other players. So in some games where you have the wizard, the time traveler, the scientist, and the robot all working together as a league of extraordinary gentlemen, some games like that will not necessarily have every character on the same footing. The robot could very well cost 1,000 points, but he will not be able to enter into bars to question people. He will not be able to handle a typical conversation. So the more the most valuable character may not be the funniest to play, the more fun to play. So on the next video I will talk more about character creation in the specifics of templates, attributes, secondary characteristics, adds and disadds, skills, and so forth. So thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.